Hello, it's me, John Politics, here to talk about politics in the politics zone. Normally, I don't talk about politics on the main channel, but you know what? We're spiced it up today. Every now and then I get asked to debate on something, and I literally never say yes because it is entirely pointless. Whether it be the absolutely awful Jubilee videos or more personal one-on-one debates from political streamers who definitely aren't just trying to inflate their egos, debate and discussion on the internet has felt increasingly more pointless over time. However, I think a lot of the real problem for this is that many people who kind of grow up and evolve on the internet kind of come to see as this sort of rabid, warlike engagement as a means of engaging with politics in a legitimate way. I'm talking about this now because a little while ago I discovered that the game YouTuber Hutch, as in the guy who did prop hunt videos with sea nanners and folk like a decade ago, real blast from the past, has now kind of shifted almost entirely to being a political content streamer. Credit where credit is due, I want to give him props for willing to make such a dramatic change to the kind of content that he makes, particularly if he doesn't enjoy doing games anymore. That legitimately takes balls to do in the absolute hellscape that is content creation, and particularly with a noble goal of wanting to educate people and make a better world for the people who inhabit it. Genuinely, that is a noble goal. However, as somebody who kind of also grew up on the internet, it's very obvious that I can see that Hutch is a product of this environment, and how he engages in making political content is extremely evident of the fact that his brain has been entirely rotted by this false version of political engagement. If you take a look at his channel, I think you can very much see the kind of content that he is making. This isn't serious political analysis stuff. This is political content in the most intense word of content. He is engaging with things like making fun of Hasan, including pushing the insane shock collar conspiracy theory. That's kind of my litmus test for if somebody actually has legitimate criticisms of Hasan, is if they believe in the just absolute batshit shock collar gate thing that happened. Hasan, 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 Hasan. There's so much anti-Hasan stuff in here. Now I get it. Everybody has to play the thumbnail game on YouTube. Everybody has to do the clickbait thing. But I think once you actually look into a bit more of his content, which I've tried to give a fair shake, you can kind of see that he has become the epitome of this rigid internet mind whose views are not really based on an evolving political scope, but a line that has to be drawn because everybody else that you don't like is seen as hard opposition. Don't get me wrong here. It is entirely reasonable to see things as hard opposition, but it isn't just about seeing people as hard opposition. It's about Hutch fundamentally not having the contextual understanding of the things that he's talking about to be able to give legitimate critique. It doesn't really take long to notice that a lot of the content that he makes for people who are unfortunately online and recognize a lot of the people in these thumbnails is almost entirely targeted at this idea of the far left.
They just need their villain. They need to be the heroes of the story, the downtrodden, the cheated. It plays into this kind of other narrative of the noble kind of victim. The noble kind of victimhood of the online left. It's a big part of the cultural and political identity that they have.
Almost every single time that Hutch comes across something that Hasan says, which is unfortunately frequently, he very rarely gives legitimate deep critique and usually ends up just kind of yelling.
The Democratic Party has this profound skill in snatching defeat from the jaws of victory.
What is this take? What is this take? What is this take?
And to be clear, I don't have extremely strong opinions on Hasan one way or another. He said some dumb shit, but I will say, to echo the sentiment that FD Signifier said recently on one of his live stream videos,
y'all never gonna get me to dislike Hasan based off content. Because I've engaged with Hasan on real shit on numerous occasions, and he puts his money where his mouth is. He comes through in a way that I don't expect, and I know a lot of white creators, and I love a lot of them. I would call Hasan first.
content-wise, whatever, Hasan shows the fuck up, and that is what matters. I've been reading a really good book called Don't Talk About Politics, which talks about stuff like this in particular, about how a lot of social media, as well as the broader political sphere, has kind of become this big warlike zone in which people do not view people as people. They view them as opposition. To quote the book, the emphasis is not on convincing others, but on beating them by proving the other side wrong definitively, vanquishing them with a counter-argument showing, with great force, it's not just your views are better, but why theirs are also wrong. I think the popularity of debate that we've seen grow and grow in online culture, from, people like Destiny to various political panels online to the late not so great Charlie Kirk, I think the illusion of the marketplace of ideas and the popularity of debate kind of turning political discussion or discussion in general into almost a kind of warlike action is very evident in how Hutch speaks and engages with content. He doesn't see Hasan as simply another point of view. He sees Hasan as a literal enemy.
I'm so fucking pissed right now. Fuck this guy, bro. This guy is political opposition. Never in a million years should we ever associate with him, his ilk, his supporters.
To Hutch, he's not engaging with Hasan or the online left. He's engaging with this sort of boogeyman, this construct that he has made, to which he just finds the most ridiculous things to blame on them without fully being able to realize the flaws of the side that he's on, which is the center and the Democrats who have done nothing but fuck us in the ass for God knows how many years. I found this pretty insane clip where he blames people like Hasan and the far left for the reason why the Supreme Court supermajority happened.
He tried to do sweeping student loan debt. And do you know who rejected him? The Supreme Court. Do you know how they were able to reject him? Because there's a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. Do you know how they got to a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court? Because I'm losing my temper. People like Hasan, in part because people like Hasan use the massive platform that they have to tell their audience that there's really no difference between Democrats and Republicans. It doesn't matter if a Democrat or Republican wins in 2016, even though Ruth Bader Ginsburg was like 152 years old. And we all knew there was a serious risk that she wouldn't make it to 2020. And that wasn't enough. So maybe if you guys would have taken the Supreme Court more seriously in 2016, he would have been able to forgive more student loan debt, but you didn't. So this is the position that we're in.
Hutch is completely stuck because of this warlike mentality he has adopted in believing that for some reason focusing on the left is the broad ultimate solution, and not that the Democrats have had complete autonomy this entire time and have just completely misread what the American people actually want and thrown everything into the gutter, is just not something that seems to ever cross his mind. The fact that we fucking lost in 2024 and that Biden did very little over his entire term. Any of the gains that he did make were either temporary or lapsed. And the fact that Trump has been able to do, what, half of Project 2025 over the course of a year of him being in office with less of a majority than Biden has during his term, just for some reason doesn't ever cross his mind. But I digress. I think that debate culture has almost kind of evolved into this form of content where Hutch, even though he's not directly debating people like Hasan or Emma Vigeland that he also doesn't like, when he makes content, when he talks to his viewers in streams, he tries to almost debate them in the videos and then break down their claims by kind of collapsing all nuances possible, even if he is entirely unequipped to handle the discussion at hand. Like, there's a really interesting clip that I watched of his video where he thinks that Emma Vingland got dunked on by MSNBC on this panel where she talks about how the Democrats need to do something else instead of being a bunch of flip-floppy, limp-dicked assholes who don't really do anything besides kowtow to the big tech oligarchy donor foundation that they've built for themselves over the past 10 years or so. And Hutch can only interpret this as her wanting them to be more on the left.
He's got 48% strong disapproval. How come the Democratic Party's approval rating is lower as a brand
because
than
of the muddled message that I was just trying to elucidate?
So you believe it's because they're not far left enough?
No, I believe that there needs to be a different approach to politics here, not building.
To be fair, I mean, like, she kind of dodged that, but no, that is what she's saying. She's saying that the Democratic Party is not left enough, and that's why they've lost popularity. And I think she's probably obfuscating a little bit here and avoiding that conclusion.
Obviously, people like me and people like Emma think it would be great for them to be more left. But in the context of this discussion, it isn't even about them being more left. It's about them having any balls to do any of the stuff that they legitimately said that they were going to do in the first place. Like, they gave up on $15 minimum wage. They did nothing to address affordability. Once again, they're in the process of throwing trans people under the bus. Like, I just genuinely don't know how you can look at the fact that Trump won and so many people neglected to not vote and see that as an issue of the far left not sucking off the Democrats enough, but instead that the Democrats, like, just have lost the faith of the public because they're endlessly trying to push this garbage centrism that nobody actually wants. To speak on the trans thing for a little bit as well, there's another video that I watched where Hutch gets extremely mad at Hasan saying something along the lines of things wouldn't really be that much better for trans people under Kamala if she won as opposed to Trump right now.
He's going to tell you that, and by the way, this is a wrong statement that he's going to deliver. But don't you think things would be better for trans people right now if Kamala Harris, after making concessions about transphobia and leaning into anti-trans narratives, if she had won, don't you think things would be better for trans people as opposed to right now?
What an insane thing to say. That is crazy, because they validated people's concerns when it came to trans girls in sports. That's all they did. I understand why parents have those concerns. I maybe have some of the same concerns. It's a really difficult issue, but it should be up to, the individual athletic bodies to determine whatever regulations, and the government shouldn't be involved.
He also says this, which I find to be absolutely hilarious.
If you want better outcomes for trans people, I believe you have a moral obligation to dunk on Hasan every time he says stupid shit like this. You are morally obligated to call this out. Unironically, some of the best trans advocacy you can do is debunking Hasan Piker claims about, like, the Democratic Party. You, in that action, would be doing more for trans people than Hasan has ever done in his entire life.
This is, again, kind of an example of Hutch being so alienated by Hasan and not really having legitimate knowledge of what he's talking about, where he's just so blindingly angry in ways that, to somebody like me who is queer and is involved heavily in trans rights and has read a lot of queer theory, I know Hasan knows what he's fucking talking about. And Hutch is literally just like LARPing being a trans activist right now. Any queer person with any reasonable amount of historical knowledge knows that even though, yes, the right absolutely hates us and wants us to basically burn in pits, the Democrats tolerate us and absolutely have a history of throwing us under the bus to kowtow whenever we need. For example, right now, with everything fucking Gavin Newsom is doing, everything that the Democrats have done before with constantly kowtowing to the whole trans swimmers thing, like, holy fuck. Like, the fact that Hutch doesn't understand that this pandering is an issue that will legitimately affect building a coalition is insane. Like, he also has clips where he defends Ezra Klein and his completely insane abundance shit and talking about building a broader umbrella, like having pro-life Democrats.
What Ezra Klein is talking about is a much more macro level analysis, prescriptive analysis. He's thinking about the much, much bigger picture. He's thinking about the problems that we face in this country from like a 30,000 foot level. She says 2025, Ezra Klein wants to abandon women in red states. That doesn't seem to be true. Quite the opposite. I think he is saying the opposite.
And that a lot of the people who embrace alarm don't embrace what I think obviously follows from that alarm, which is the willingness to make strategic and political decisions you find personally discomforting, even though they are obviously more likely to help you win, right? Taking political positions that'll make it more likely to win Senate seats in Kansas and Ohio and Missouri. Trying to open your coalition to people you didn't want it open to before, running pro-life Democrats. And one of my biggest frustrations with many people whose politics I otherwise share is the unwillingness to match the seriousness of your politics to the seriousness of your alarm.
I'm sorry, you want to say that you're building a coalition to support people, to support women, and you want to bring in and run people that hate women, basically, that don't want women to have control over their bodies? How can you say that that's any form of a coalition? How can you not understand that having people like that completely shatters your coalition and has gotten us to where we are right now? It's gotten us to the point that Trump is in office, that things are worse for trans people, that we are being tormented on the street by fascists with guns. It's completely ridiculous. It's not about Hasan. It's not about trans people. It's that Hutch hates Hasan. He hates leftism, this fantastical version of it. And he cannot seem to think for 2 seconds that maybe, just maybe, he doesn't know what he's fucking talking about. He doesn't understand queer history or the complexities of being trans. Oh my God, if you're unfamiliar with this, like, a great book to get into this for anybody, including Hutch, if you somehow found this, like Queer Then and Now, a great compilation of really important speeches from important activists, like incredibly good, accessible, yet challenging stuff to make you understand this. Like, on the most basic level, yes, things would be better under Kamala. But you know what? The Democrats still wouldn't be fucking doing anything to give us actual meaningful advancement. That is an incredibly hard thing for a lot of people to come to terms with, even some queer people. But everybody I know understands this. It sucks. It feels really bad to say, but unfortunately, that's just how it is. Hasan is right. And it is a hard thing to be able to understand, but the fact that Hutch doesn't even take 2 seconds to think about it proves that his brain is just like so rigid in this warlike state that he can't even take 2 seconds to even do deeper research on how trans people feel about this. I can tell Hasan has read our shit because that is the correct thing to say. God, like, Hutch doesn't even seem to know the difference between the importance of a stimulus check versus a tax credit.
Problems are solvable if you stop implementing this as tax credits, though weirdly that's never on the table. It's not weird. It's because Americans are geared towards tax cuts. Americans and the Democrats are terrified of presenting anything as like spending money on Americans, and only can angle any sort of political movement in the direction of less taxes. That's it.
Doesn't it accomplish the same thing? Like, if you give someone a $5,000 tax credit as opposed to a $5,000 stimulus check, doesn't it accomplish the same thing? And if the optics of it are more like palatable for the median voter, then what's the issue? No, because a check is way better. But for example, like the child tax credits, those came in the form of checks, right? I feel like the child tax credit, like people were getting like literal checks that were they were like an advance on the tax credit, right?
These online echo chambers, essentially turning all form of political engagement that you have online, whether you're actually talking to a person or reacting to something, as you turn it into a debate, even if you're debating something completely imaginary, has ruined political discourse in a way that is so hard to describe. And like, I don't know what to do about it. Genuinely. Like, I truly don't. Like, that's why so much of the content that I make on my main channel focuses on like trying to offer a level of education, trying to offer a level of context and historical knowledge, because like debates don't change people's minds in the vast majority of the time. Like, that's one thing that the book talked about that I really liked, is it goes on to say that like debates are broadly useless. They're just for theater and reinforcing the views of the people who are doing the debates or cheering for either side. Like, it is theater. Like, that's what it is. That's what Hutch is doing. He is doing theater. If anybody wants to do legitimate political action, like, this is not it. Like, you can talk about politics in a meaningful way, but unless you're actually going out, you're doing stuff in your community, you are engaging in action, you are supporting people, like, you are not doing politics. Voting is incredibly important, absolutely. But if you're not doing stuff for people and engaging in things and educating yourself, you are not doing politics. Like, it's so complicated, and the world has made engaging in politics so unbelievably dense and hard, and this culture that we've made has amplified that to be so incredibly confusing and polarizing that, like, no fucking wonder Hutch exists as he does. And for the record, I don't think it's possible to sing Kumbaya with everybody around the campfire. I don't think we should. I think the act of drawing lines makes people very uncomfortable, like Hutch, but it is necessary. It is necessary to keep some people out. Straight up, 100%. Like, can you work on changing those people's minds? Abso-fucking-lutely. But there has to be a certain level of limitation in who you allow to be in your spaces. Because if things broaden to the degree where everybody is involved, then nobody is involved. There is no clear goals, and you devolve into what the Democratic Party has become, where they are literally just a stepping stool for fascism to arise. I don't think Hutch is a bad person. I just think he is very much a victim of this incredibly toxic mentality that has poisoned so many minds on the internet. I think him growing up on the internet absolutely did not help things, and I think that seeing him basically spend his entire time digging his heels into a reality that just straight up does not exist due to the state that we live in now is just like, it's just like really unfortunate to watch, because he has all these good intentions, but he has genuinely no idea what he's talking about. And it really fucking sucks to see somebody who could be working on themselves and doing good and using this big platform that they had and taking this risk to become somebody more focused on the real issues of our time, using that platform to endlessly talk about and try to reify the exact same things that got us into this place to begin with, while engaging in rhetorical tactics and content structures that are detrimental to the future of political engagement and getting people to realize that we need something else. I do not know if there is a way out of this. I genuinely don't think there is. I think the only thing you can do is work to continually read and understand the world, read good books like the book that I recommended and talked about earlier, and really engage in your communities, because engaging in things and meeting people and interacting is how you learn and have your minds changed. It's how you evolve your opinion. It's how I grew up. It's how Hutch should be engaging in things instead of continually building up his echo chamber and violently attacking Hasan and leftists for literally no good reason at all. There are good reasons, absolutely, to criticize people like them, but like these aren't one of them. I know at the very least, you, dear viewer, can think about how you engage with stuff and how you want to engage with stuff, and hopefully realize that doing what Hutch is doing only serves to make you feel like the specialist, goodest boy in your opinions. And you deserve better than that. You deserve to have meaningful criticism. You deserve to think about what you do, how you think, how you live your life, what kinds of interactions you have with people, and understand that doing something like this isn't healthy and meaningful. It's not bringing change. It's not making you happier. It's not moving the dial in any meaningful way. So please, I beg of you, don't engage in politics like Hutch. It is not good. It is not productive. It is only there for content farming and making you feel like you're a special, cool little guy who has for sure all the right opinions that definitely don't get their shit kicked around by just opening the news for 2 seconds. Anyways, that's been me, John Politics. You're in the politics zone. Thank you for coming. Fuck ICE. Minneapolis is the best city in the country right now. I hope that everything turns out better than it is, because it's really sad and angry, and we need something else. We need something else than what the Democrats are offering, or this will get worse. This will absolutely get worse. Okay, goodbye.